the second day of the 2020 Virtual Forum for Excellence. We're thrilled that you're here, and we have a great session for you. From our presenter, Tara Driver, assessing the whole person to decide on a career path. I'm going to turn it over to Tara in just a second, but let me introduce myself. I'm Sarah Goldammer from the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center. I'm your moderator and host today, and I'm joined by my colleague and friend Amber Fornisari from the Central Illinois Adult Education Service Center. So we are happy to be here and to support you, and I'm going to stop my share and turn it over now to Tara and let her bring her screen up and get started.
Great, thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but in the chat, this is a very interactive workshop presentation, so if you can grab a pen and a piece of paper or pencil, that would be great. So let me go ahead and pull up everything here. And also, if you can, in the chat, go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we can go ahead and get started. And I'll give you a minute to do that. And while you're introducing yourself, I'll introduce myself. As she said, my name is Tara Driver. I've been in adult education for the last maybe 8 years. Worked in different arenas in adult ed and administration, in the classroom, with the city colleges system, as well as with nonprofit organizations. And over the last few years, I've worked in workforce services with the organization that I was previously with, National Able Network, and had my experiences with them, great experiences with them in collaborating adult education and workforce services, our WIOA programs. Not sure if anyone who was here last year when we were in person, I did a presentation with a co-host regarding collaborating adult education programs with the WIOA programs. And I think it's definitely a process that can work, and we are all working through it. So this year, in that experience, background is in education, as I mentioned, human service. I'm a licensed professional counselor with a professional education's license with school counseling. And my concentration is college and career. And over the last year in working with WIOA and adult ed, have come to realize some of the best ways to provide continuum of care with our clients. And so just wanting to speak with everyone about the assessment process and assessing the whole person and helping our clients and our students decide on a career path.
Excuse me, Tara.
Sure.
Just want to make sure, do you want your video to be on? Because I don't see you, and I would love to see your smiling face.
Okay, well, let's make sure that happens. Let me. And my video, I thought, was on, so I apologize for that. Can you see me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me go back in and
yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. All working with technology. So are you still able to see me, Sarah?
If people want to see the video and the screen, you just have to go into full screen, and then you'll be able to see both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are you able to see me now?
We can see your screen, Tara, so
okay.
Go ahead and keep going, and I think we'll be fine.
I apologize for that. I thought was in, because the video is on. I apologize for that, everyone.
No worries. Just go ahead, Tara.
Okay.
Share your information.
So yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll be talking about basically assessing the whole person when we talk about working with CTE students and adult education students and getting them onto career paths of their choices, talking about assessment processes that are holistic to them and that can help guide them. I must give kudos first to Women Employed, who's an organization that I was partnered with in adult ed in doing their Career Foundations curriculum. It's a comprehensive curriculum for adult education, and I found that in catering that curriculum to workforce services, they give you opportunities to do that, pull out pieces of that curriculum and add additional pieces of my own that I thought that would definitely give a more holistic assessment for assisting our students and our clients with choosing career paths. So of course, as you all know, there are different career paths that clients may choose and that we work with different students and they may choose different career paths. Excuse me. Of course, there's the military career pathway where students may choose to join the military and to gain skills through the military. Of course, there's workforce services where students may choose to gain a specific skill and get certified or licensed in that skill. And then of course, there's the academic route where students may choose to a career pathway that requires certain academia and certain levels of academics. And then there's, the entrepreneurship path where students may say, hey, I want to work for myself. I want to open my own business, no matter what skill they have that they feel that they're a professional in. The commonality of all of these is that there is a certain level of training and knowledge that is needed to do so. And so that's where we come in as adult educators and as career and technical education programs and WIOA programs come into play. We are here to provide them with that level of knowledge or training so that they can be successful. So let's start off talking about goals. Of course, we've all heard this before, SMART goals. Goals have to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. We've heard it over and over and over again. And that's easy for us to maybe process, but when you're working with clients in certain populations, you want to make sure that they have a clear understanding because, as you know, sometimes students set goals and they easily overwhelm themselves. And our job is to make sure that they don't do that so that they can stay on the right path. So mindtools.com has 5 golden rules for setting goals. Of particular goals. And so one of that is to set goals that make sure they motivate. You know that when you're dealing with life and you're trying to obtain goals, it's easy to not be motivated. So you want to make sure that we help our students and clients set goals that motivate. And of course, as I mentioned, they have to be SMART. And then we want to make sure they write them down. All a part of that is writing them down and having a vision. And that goes along with making an action plan. Because of course, if you don't put any action behind those goals, you can write them down, but if you don't make a plan to have action behind them, a lot of times the 5th golden rule doesn't work. They don't stick with it. So make sure you're following those 5 golden rules of setting goals. Now, they also talked about 5 principles of goal setting. And when we speak with our clients and we're helping them set their goals, we want to make sure that they have clarity, of course, that the goals are clear, that they're not just whimsical and unambiguous. And we want to make sure that there's a set of behaviors that go behind that clarity, that they realize that. We want to make sure that they're challenging. We want to have a level of challenge for them that is realistic. We don't want them to set goals that are unrealistic. And then of course, that discourages them or, like I said before, overwhelms them. We want to make sure that their commitment levels are high, that they buy into the goal. That's why it's important for them to set a goal and for us to kind of guide them along in that process. And we want to make sure that they have some sort of feedback, that someone that they're close to that also buys into their goals and what their successes, future successes are going to be. Make sure that they have someone that can hold them accountable. We want to make sure that we have someone else on our side to keep us motivated and keep us accountable for those goals. And then, of course, the task complexity of the goal. Making sure that they have sufficient time to complete that goal so that they're not overwhelmed, of course, and making sure that it's okay to revise those tasks. It's okay to go back and change them and to make sure that the task of the goals fit their realistic view of them achieving it. So it's okay to change your goal and to make sure that it fits your time frame, it fits your level of complexity in completing the task. So when you're talking about barriers to achieving goals, this is the important part for our clients. This is the part that makes sure that they don't encounter all of those things that prevents them from obtaining those goals. Of course, you have external barriers that a lot of our students and our clients are dealing with, especially during this unprecedented time. So some of them are examples here: financial ability, lack of time, social norms, or lack of resources. And you want to make sure that they are aware of those barriers. So within your goal setting process, you want to make sure you have a process to help them become aware of a lot of those barriers. And then, of course, there are internal barriers, personal fears, once again, lack of motivation and self-esteem, and their beliefs in what they can achieve. We just heard our opening speaker talk about that. And we want to make sure that we help our clients to not be self-limiting, to make sure that we give them all of the motivation and kind of the accolades that they need along the way. So one of the things I like to talk about with my students when we're going through this process of helping them decide on a career path is if they've ever tried to achieve this particular goal before, and have them let me know. And a lot of times they'll say, yes, I've tried to obtain my high school equivalency, or I've tried to get through this work surf program or the job training program before, and I'm returning because, you know, you want to talk about the barriers that preventing them from obtaining and achieving the goal, because they're at a point when they're coming back to us, they're motivated. Oh, I'm going to do it this time. No, and that's great. We want to keep that motivation high. And at the same time, making sure it's realistic, you want to ask them about, when you tried before, what happened? Because usually you ask that question, are there any barriers for you to achieve? And they'll say, no barriers. I'm going to do this time. And then you talk to them about some of the barriers that prevented them before. And then they realize, hey, this could be a barrier now once again. So you want to go through that process with them and make sure that if they have those same barriers or new barriers, that they have an action plan to kind of how would they overcome those barriers in this time so that they can actually move forward in achieving their goal. And I think that's a great part of the process, because it gives them a plan. Because a lot of times people come across barrier, life happens, and of course you can make a plan for certain things, and some things you can't, some things come up. But if you have certain things in place and say, hey, childcare was an issue last time, this time around, let's make a plan or an action plan on if childcare becomes an issue. Who is in your corner? Who has buy-in to you achieving your high school equivalent or getting through this training program? Who can help you with childcare? And let's make a plan on if this happens again, how would you handle it so that you're not overwhelmed and you decide to give up because childcare is a barrier now. So, oh, sorry about that. I have a little activity that I like to do. I've gone through several goal setting activities and processes with clients and students. And this one I came across on mine too, I thought was great. And it's a process called backward goal setting. And many of you probably have heard of it. And if you haven't, great as well. You might find it interesting. But the process is basically you're setting your goal backwards. And like I said, a lot of you may have heard of it. But you're writing down your ultimate goal. And then you're kind of going backwards from there. So writing down the milestone right before that ultimate goal. And then writing down the milestone before that milestone. And you're repeating. And usually I like to tell students to do it in maybe 5 steps if you can, again, to prevent it from being overwhelming. So let's do this activity together really quickly. If you can, think about, or if you don't want to write it down, you can just think about it, but think about or name a personal goal, and it can be any goal that you have. And I'll give you a second to do that. So hopefully you have your goal. And it can be anything, redecorating your living room or something, I don't know, by the holidays. But what would be your finish line for that goal? And how many steps will it take you for you to reach that goal? So think about 5 major steps that it would take you to reach that goal. And you can write it down if you like. Now I would like to ask you, once you get that down, what is that milestone right before you get to that final step of reaching that goal? And then I would like for you to write down or think about the milestone before that particular milestone that you just wrote or that you thought about. And then of course that process continues. And hopefully you will get out of it, what I've seen many students get out of it is when you take these in baby steps, of course, as we all know, when you take your goals in baby steps, you don't get overwhelmed. So now you may decide, hey, that final milestone, let's focus on that. Let's focus on that, give that a timeline, give us some realistic steps for that milestone. And this kind of helps clients break down their goals so that they are not feeling overwhelmed, and they realize that, and once they get across that first milestone, it motivates them to move forward, and it gives them a lot of a vision on, hey, I may be able to actually achieve the process. The backward goal setting process for the last couple of years has worked well with students, and I think it's a great tool when you're talking about helping them develop their goals. So in this day and age of technology, and when you're dealing with particular groups or age groups, young adults love working with apps, and they are okay with apps and technology. And so there are several, many goal setting applications out there. And a lot of the goal setting applications help them track their goals. You can set whatever types of goals you like. These are just 3 that I know of that have worked really well with a few of my students. So you know, if you haven't heard of the applications or goal setting applications, I definitely invite you to kind of explore them because they are a good way for students to set goals and have those goals in front of them at all times so that they can keep track of them. And so I have a small example of a video. Hopefully this will work. And we don't have to watch the whole video, but kind of gives you an idea of how some of these goal tracking systems work as apps. And this one is Productive. So let's see if.
Hello, and welcome welcome to another Tuesday Tech Tip with the Technology Training Department of Lawler Therapy Support Services. Today, we are looking at a really beautiful app to track your habits or your goals. Let's get right into the app. And on this screen here, we can see that we can create a habit or a goal. We can write our own or use one of the pre-made ones that they have included in the app. For this example, I'm just going to use a pre-made one. And we're going to say hit the gym and give it a nice little icon, something that goes along with a gym. I don't know. Oh, here we go. That one. That probably goes along with a gym vest. Next. Okay, we're going to do this on daily, so I'm going to set it to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'm going to do this in the afternoon. And yeah, I think that should be about good. Done. Cool. So you can see at the bottom I have a calendar: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, today. Hitting today, I can see that I have a habit. I have to hit the gym. If I look back into previous days, like Sunday, these were my habits that I had from Sunday, and Saturday, and so forth. You can go to stats, and it gives you a lovely graph, or that's not a graph, is it? That's a calendar with icons on it that is representing the days that you did all of your habits. So the days that have a completely green circle, 25, 26, 27, 28, I did all of the habits that I wanted on that day. You can see on the 29th, I only did some of the habits I needed. So I had 4 perfect days and a not so bad day. So if I'm in my today view, I can see that I have this afternoon habit of hitting the gym. Now, guess what? I actually did hit the gym, so I'm going to slide it this way and mark it as done. So now it gets grayed out. The neat thing is I can click on it or tap on it, and I can add a note. So in this example, I could include something like added a new exercise for my arms. Felt great. Boom. So going to today, I can see that it's done. I can tap on it. I can view the details. I can see my notes. Oh, there's my notes there. From the menu, I can go to habits and ordering, and I can see all of the habits that I have here on the bottom. Hit the gym, go for a run, complete reading exercises.
So hopefully you were able to see that video, but it kind of gives you an idea of how it works on a lot of these apps. So a lot of them track your habits, track what you've set your goals to be. If you mark them that you've completed your goals, it makes notes of that and collects that data. There are ways on them to add your friends to the app so that you can have accountability process, and say if a few of you and your friends both have the same goals, you can do it together. So they work really well. Like I say, in this day and age of technology, you have something right there in your hand that can kind of keep you on track with your goals, because you can download them on your phone or your tablet, or of course your desktop or computer, laptop, and you can have it right there to kind of track your goals. So yeah, so when you're talking about the next part of the presentation, we're talking about skills and assessing a client's skills. And of course, we all do this working with adult education and CTE, and making sure that we do skills assessments with our students and our clients, so that they know where they're at and where they have to be. And of course, in working with WIOA and adult education, they have a pre-assessment, and it's the TABE. And that TABE, as you know, or the CASAs, or some sort of literacy assessment that tests them to make sure they have those basic literacy skills or mathematical skills to go into different careers. But, you know, a lot of times I think like we miss the ball on all of the other assessment processes. So that's what this is all about. So when we're talking about skills, of course, we want to make sure that when we're assessing our clients, we want to make sure that they know their skills and their transferable skills. So a lot of times we help them determine what their skills are currently. And we do this by different processes. The idea of this is to make sure that we focus on opening up the client's idea of skills and where they're pulling their skills from. A lot of times I would find that students and people who are looking to go into job training or particular workforce or a career, they only think about skills in reference to their jobs that they've had. But we want them to open that up and to get them to pull skills from all aspects of their life, from their education. Even if you have someone who may be trying to obtain their high school equivalency and didn't finish high school, they may have not been great in the classroom, but they may have actually been on a sports team before they dropped out, or some sort of club in high school before they ended up leaving high school, before they completed it. So if they have any of that in their background, in their education, you want to ask them about that and pull from it. Any skills that they obtained while they were a part of that membership or that organization or the club or the team. Of course, we're pulling skills from their job history and their work experience, but we want clients to think about skills that they may have gained as volunteers, or skills that they have gained, like I say, being a membership in a particular club, or any personal skills. I've encountered students who may have been stay-at-home moms and they're deciding, I'm going back, my kids are out of the house, I'm an empty nester now, I want to focus on me. And so they're coming back, they want to get their high school equivalency, or they want to get back into the workforce, or get into the workforce for the first time. And their first story to me always is, I have no skills. This is all I've done. This is why I'm doing this. And making them realize that you have personal skills. Even as a stay-at-home mom, a lot of you may know that there are several skills that we have and we have to use, being a personal assistant to our children and to kids all the time, and to our spouses or partners. And so helping them realize that they have all of these skills that can be transferred into their goals and into the workforce, or into their careers that they're choosing to embark on. And so determining the skills they need for that chosen career path. Of course, we're pulling from the education, but you always wanted to help them look at if there's any additional education needed, and what skills can they use to get through that education or that training process. Looking at the industry that they may be interested in and finding out how the skills that they already have can transfer into that particular industry. And even going as specific as looking at job descriptions and finding out how those skills that they have can transfer into those job descriptions. And then the company and the organization. Always encouraging students when they get to that part of the process where there's researching a company or organization and they're applying for that position, making sure that they realize that the skills they have may be transferred to the company or the organization that they're working for, in a general sense. Because when you're talking about choosing a career and not just a job, because that's our whole goal, is to make sure our clients aren't just continuing to job hop, but to get into an actual career. You want to make sure that they have a tie to the different companies and organizations that fall under their career path, and the career that they choose. And I'll stop for a moment to see if there are any burning questions out there. If there are any in the chat box, anybody have that they need to ask now? If not, we can definitely wait until the end. So Amber, do you see any questions in the chat box?
There are currently no questions in the chat box, but
Okay,
lots of people interacting.
Okay, great. So let's continue. So a transferable skills activity. I know that a lot of you have these. I'm going to pull this up so that you can have a better view. But this is a transferable skills worksheet that found at Southern Methodist University through their Career Development Center. I chose this particular format because it's very, very comprehensive. And I liked it, but of course, you know, continue to use whatever format you use with students and with clients to help them identify their transferable skills. And of course, you know, the background for this is they've worked with NACE, and so they talking about the main transferable skills that a lot of employers and look for. And so they mentioned these top ones: verbal, of course, initiative, strong work ethic, teamwork, analytical, interpersonal, problem solving, flexibility, adaptability, computer skills, and we know that's a big one, especially now at this time, and detail oriented. So basically, this is a process that you use. And we're not going to do this, but I just wanted to show you because, like I said, I like this one. It's very comprehensive. And they just place the number in the box based on a rating of highly skilled, moderately skilled, and how they need improvement. And they have these list of skills here under each category, as you can see. And then they talk about identifying their top 3 highest scoring categories, and then kind of ask questions around that. And of course, asking questions around where they have their lowest categories and where they can improve in those sets of skills. And a lot of times, like I say, it helps people have a visual so that they know the things that they may be can work on to improve in those areas, in that particular skill set. And so having that conversation with them, and then it goes even further to demonstrate how their top skills, when you're talking about their top skills, how they were used in a previous job or classroom or any kind of extracurricular activity, and how they can kind of map it out. So this is an example of how the transferable skill is making presentations. Work experience is they presented marketing research findings to the management team. The academic project, they create a presentation on communication strategies within the team. Extracurricular activities, how they presented to a group of 20 high school students on the importance of developing good study habits. So this is how they can actually write whatever those top skills are down and map them out in different areas. And of course, you know, this is a template, this is an example. You may take from this and choose to develop something on your own in this format, but I like it because, like I said, it's very comprehensive, and it kind of gives students and clients a visual of those transferable skills under those skill sets. And so, and I like to, when we talk about that, I like to talk about it with them at a level of them realizing that a particular skill that they have, because a lot of times people look on that resume and they read that job description, especially when you're talking about students and clients who have a little small work history or little to no work history, and they don't really think about all of the skills that they've had in the previous job. So they're reading a job description and they're saying, oh my God, I don't qualify for that. I don't have those skills. And it may be because they really haven't thought about jobs that they've had in the past or personal things that they've done that may apply to this skill. And of course, I have to tell students all the time, you never want to lie on your resume. Do not lie, but you want to be able to present the skill that you have in a way that it transfers to the job or the career that you're looking for. And so having that conversation with them and making sure they realize that, I think helps them when they're talking about, you know, writing that resume or updating that resume, and thinking about the particular career field they want to go in and catering that resume to their career choice. So let's do this. Personality matters. So we know that in our business, we deal with several personalities, and definitely personality matters when you're talking about going into any type of environment, whether it's professional, when you're working with other people. And Students, it's, you know, we live in a day and age where I'm going to be me, and it's nothing wrong with that. You exactly should be who you are and representative of who you are, but you want to always make sure that that's presented in a professional manner when you're talking about going into a career path. Especially if you're choosing certain types of careers. So it's nothing wrong with being who you are. That's what we want to teach people to be. But when you're talking about going into certain careers or any career, you want to make sure that that level of professionalism is maintained. And so how does personality affect their career pathways? Because when we get into this part of it, a lot of students, well, what does that have to do with it? Of course, we know personality is our character, it's our qualities, it's our distinctive character. And according to, you know, at one point in time, we talked about certain personalities, but according to 16personalities.com, there are 4 personality categories that they speak of. And I thought this was interesting in just exploring how, when we talk about personality, how things change over time. And under those categories, there are 16 personality types. And their research and philosophies are based on the philosophies that we've heard of in the past, Jung's theory of psychological types and Cook's, Briggs, Myers, and things like that, the type indicator. But the way they broke it down, I thought it was very interesting. And so I wanted to explore that when you're talking about working with our students and our clients and career path choices. So they say that the 5 personality aspects are of the mind. Of course, that's where the introverted, extroverted part comes in. And when you're talking about how we work, the mind aspect shows how we interact with surroundings and everything around us. The energy aspect talks about our world processes and how we process information. And so that's where the observant and the intuitive comes in. Our nature, of course, determines how we make decisions and cope with different emotions and stress. And so that's the thinking, feeling part of it. Our tactics reflect our approach to work and our planning and decision making. So our judging and our prospecting prospect. And then identity, of course, underpins all the others, showing how we are in our abilities and our decisions. And so when you're talking about workplace environment, are you that assertive person? Are you self-assured and even-tempered? Or are you that turbulent person who's self-conscious and, you know, can't really deal with stress? And so to kind of break this down a little bit, I wanted to show you how they broke it down. And you can go to this information. All of this will be available on their website. But if you look at it, it shows how they break all down the aspects and the different categories. So the first category, you have your analysis, and those are the logicians and architects and those commanders and debaters, and they have the personality. That's that type of person you talk about who may be innovative and always want to be conscious and debate, and that person that wants to be bold and imaginative. So they break down that particular category for those 4 personality types. And then you have the diplomats, and those are your advocates and your mediators, and those people who are the people that, if you notice when you work in our field, you have students in your classroom who always want to advocate and kind of be the person that says, hey, let's step forward and make sure we have this particular activity available in the school. And so those may be your students who are the campaigners and who get involved in certain things in the classroom and within the school system or the community organization you're in. And then you have your sentinels, and they break these down as your logisticians and your defenders and executives and your counsel. And of course, those are the social people, what they call us, basically, people who want to help and who like to take care of people and are excellent administrators and dedicated and warm protectors. And so those are your caring people. and people who are kind of practical and things like that. So most of us probably fall in this category just based on our career path and our choices that we've made. And then explorers. That's the fourth category. Those are your virtuoso, adventurer, entrepreneur, entertainer. Those are the exciting people. I know in the past you may compare them to like the doers. So those are the people who are energetic, who are spontaneous and want to, you know, take the world by storm and always doing something and moving around. Your action people. So those are considered your explorers. So that's how they break it down here. And I thought it was very interesting because although it's very comparable to what we've learned in the past, you know, I thought it was really great how they kind of broke each category down for each personality type. So based on that, let's do another little activity. We'll do this together. And you can type your answer in the chat. So basically, we want to look at, on your left side, these are different career choices. And on the right, based on this personality categories we just talked about, which personality matches that particular career choice that's on the right? So let's do the first one, personal accountant. Which category would you say would match the personality type that's on the right? And I'll give you a few minutes to think about it or type it in the chat. And so if you chose Sentinel, true. They embrace order and stability, and they're logically driven. So those type of people definitely like to, and those people who like to work with people, and I put personal accountant in there on purpose because that's a person that would like to work with someone on a personal level when you're talking about accounting, not necessarily work for an organization. So they may be your Sentinel person. What about teacher assistant? So that's your diplomat. That's someone, one of us, you know, Sentinel. That's or diplomat, either or. But they're the person that embraces diplomacy and counseling, socially driven. So that would be your diplomat there. And what about graphic art designer? Oh, sorry, that went out of order, but it's. Looks like it's down a little bit, transferred to Google Sheets, and it's a little off. So yeah, but that's supposed to point from graphic art designer. So yes, that will be your explorer and your person who likes to work with tools and action and things like that. Your auto mechanic, I'm sorry about that, that likes to work with tools and likes to move around. And the next one is the graphic art designer. And that's your analyst. That's the person that likes rationality and to know how things work, data-driven. So yes. And then your sous chef, again, your sous chef is your explorer. That's someone who, once again, likes to work with tools. They're creative, they're artistic, they embrace spontaneity, and they like using special techniques when they're in that kitchen. So that would be your sous chef. And then your IT coding manager, of course, that's your analyst. Again, that's someone who embraces data and who rationality and how things work and things like that. So that will be your IT coding manager. So yeah, so doing things like that, kind of matching your personality with careers is a great part of the process because, you know, it helps students to make sure they're choosing a career that they're going to love. As you know, there are other career interest assessments, 16personalities.com that we just looked at. They actually have their own career assessment. If you go to that website, it's free and it's quick, it's easy. But then of course, there are others you probably have heard of. ONET, Interest Profiler, and the RACIC, of course, is another a career assessment. And both of those follow Holland's 6 personality types. You definitely this is good when you're working with students and doing personality assessment. Both of those follow Holland 6 personality types, and you may have heard of it before, but they follow along the same lines of the 16 personalities. So you have your realistic people, your doers, people who, like I said, like to move around and work with objects and tools. And then you have your investigative thinkers, and those are people who like to observe and analyze and things like that. And your creators, those are the ones who are artistics and like, you know, your actors and your singers and your artists and things like that. So the social people, we probably fall under that category. A lot of us are your helpers and people who like to help other people and work in the service industries. And then your persuaders, those are your enterprisers, your enterprising people. Those are people who are like your businessmen, who always want to persuade you or influence you and get you to buy that new car. And then your conventional organizers, those are people who like to work with data also, clerical, numerical, you know, things like that, and follow through on instructions, and they enjoy working like at a desk or an office. So, and I like to talk to students about this and how important it is, because we've all encountered at some point in time someone who worked in customer service and they weren't really good at it. And it could be because that particular field did not match their personality. We've all seen people who work behind a desk and they may fall under the realistic, who's a person that likes to move around. So that person would hate being someone who worked in a field that was conventional, sitting behind the desk answering the phone all day. And not saying that a lot of times when you take these assessments, you have a dominant personality, but sometimes it's possible to have a cross category of 2 dominant personalities. So what that looks like maybe is you have someone who's realistic and social. And so a lot of times those type of careers, you see people like our first-line workers, our firemen, and our police officers and EMT workers. Those are people who are realistic doers. They like moving around and doing stuff and not sitting in one spot, but they also like to help people. So they may have chosen that career path because they may have those 2 dominant personality traits. So yeah, so it's important when you're talking to your students and your clients and you're doing this personality assessment to make sure that it's relatable and how it relates to them choosing a career that matches their personality. You don't want them, and sometimes you see people who, like I said, those job hoppers who have had many different jobs, and that may be the case because they may be choosing jobs that may not quite fit their personality. So I gave a small example of this here, where you might have someone who wants to work in the healthcare industry, and you do the assessment and their personality type is social conventional. And they desire job, they want to be a medical assistant. So as a way to make sure that they stay within that particular career field and motivate them and give them unlimited options, you might have the discussion, hey, you know, your personality is this, but in that industry, and it's great that you want to work in the healthcare industry, and I think you should, but look at all of these other options. You working as a lead medical assistant may be even a greater opportunity and may match your personality even better. So when they come to you saying they want to work in a particular field, you know, it doesn't negate that they can work in that particular field because of their personality, but it's the job that may choose. And you might say, hey, let's look at different options in this particular industry that may fit your personality. So it's important for students and clients to realize that they don't have to choose a whole nother career path because they want to work in health services and their personality type is not social. Their personality type may be conventional only, or it may be realistic. You can still work in the healthcare field, but look at this. This fits your personality. You're moving, you're doing things, you're, you know, always able to do this. And so having those types of discussions. So the next part we'll talk about here is values. And I want you to once again interact and type in the chat. When you think of the not the work, sorry, the word value, what is the one word that comes to mind? Okay. Okay.
Tara, I'm not sure that you can see the chat. So Carrie has said the word worth. Let's see if
Great.
anybody has something different. Jane also says worth. I made me think of like importance is another word that comes to mind for values.
Okay.
Effort. Amber says effort. Anybody else a different word than worth or effort or importance?
Well, those are great, though. Thank you for responding to that. So, yeah, so values are basically the foundation of who we are. They're inner compass that helps us kind of navigate our actions and our life experiences. And so you may be thinking, okay, how is this, can this relate to choosing a career path? Well, actually, I feel like values are very important when you're helping students and clients choose their career path. And so here we have a values activity that if you have your pen and paper in front of you, this is where it comes into play. And I pulled this, like I say, I want to give kudos to one of our partners, Women Employed in Adult Ed at our program. This I thought was a great values activity, and you'll see why, and we'll talk about it, but let's go ahead and do it. So you see here in front of you a list of 25 values, right? On your paper, I want you to look at all of these values, and I want you to eliminate 5 of them. Eliminate 5 values that you feel like are least important to you. And I'll give you time to do that. So I'll give you another few seconds, and hopefully you were able to pull out, I know it's hard, but 5 values that are least important to you out of this list. Just scratch them off the list. All right, and then I want you to go ahead and look at the list again and scratch out 5 more values that are least important to you. And do this quickly. I know it's hard. So look at it again out of what you have left. Right now, you've scratched out, hopefully, the first 10. So out of the 15 left, I want you to eliminate 5 more values that are least important to you. And I hope you're not cursing me right now. It's very hard to do, especially in the short amount of time. Students hate it when we do this because they're like, oh no, 5 more? So go ahead and after you've eliminated about 15 now at this point, you should have eliminated 15. You should have 10 left. So out of the 10 left, eliminate 5 more. Ugh, I know it's hard, ugh. So you should have only 5 values left. And out of the 5 values you have left, the idea is I ask students to take those 5 values and rate them, write them down and rate them 1 to 5, writing number 1 as your top value and number 5 as your least out of the 5 that are left. And this is a really hard process, and a lot of times students are like, why couldn't we just pick out the 5 top values? And a lot of times that's how we do. But I love this process because it makes you look at it differently when you have to compare your values and go backwards and compare them to your other values. And so it really makes you think about what you value and what you value the most based on this short list. Of course, there are many others, and you can cater this list to however you like. But yes, it helps them get a real true idea of what they value. Let's move on in lieu of time. And so the reason I do this with them, because I like to tell them how this affects their career choices. So I let them know when they're talking about choosing a career path, they want to make sure that their values match the industry that they're looking to work in, as well as the job description. An example is I've had several students who may have a top value as being with family or spending time with family, may be a top value for them. And they want to go into the CDL career path. And they found that when they got into that career path, they were spending a lot of time away from home from their family. And so it was hard for them, and they decided to do something different now because they couldn't spend that much time away from home. So making sure that if you have a student that they value something like spending time with family and they choose in that career path, making them aware of that and maybe adjusting. So maybe doing CDL still, but you may consider driving instead of doing long distance, doing regional, or where you're only away from home for a few days, or driving a CDL and working locally and just making sure you stay within the Chicagoland area or whatever area you're in, making sure that you only are away from family for a couple of days a week, or you get a job driving a CDL, driving a truck, and it could be in delivery where you just have that regular work hour day, and you can still spend time with family. So when you're talking about working for a company or organization, you want to make sure that that company or that organization's mission and goals match with your values, because working in an environment where the missions and the goals matches your values can give you a higher job satisfaction. We find that most employers who work for companies that they believe in the company's mission and goals, they have a better work experience, and they tend to stick around longer. And they tend to feel valued themselves because they are matched in that way. And then when you're talking about specific job duties, your values definitely affect the specific job expectations and the services that you do in a job. So, making sure that if you say, for instance, and I tell this story sometimes, but, I have a cousin who is of the Muslim faith, and he chose to, needed a job and just wanted a job. And we all have those people that, don't want to listen to you when they come to you for advice, even though you work in the field and in the family may be an expert in this career in technical education or whatever. And so, just needing a job, wanting to work in a job. So picked up a job at a factory, at a meat factory. And I'm like, I don't know how that's going to work out for you based on what you believe and in your belief system and your value. And of course, kept the job for only 2 weeks because couldn't deal with some of the duties that he had to perform. So very important when you're talking about working a specific job and how they match your values. So yeah, moving along in time, one of the most important pieces of this is when you're talking about career guidance. When you're talking to your students and they need career guidance and you're assessing clients and students for guidance, you want to make sure you know the best process for them and their individual needs. And so you may think that a person may need career advising, or they may need career coaching. Of course, advising is more an academic setting. So when you're doing career advising, you want to make sure you're working with students in that particular area. And So it looks like we're running out of time. I apologize for you. But just make sure that when you're assessing your clients, you're making sure that they are using the proper way of helping them. So whether it's coaching, whether it's advising, or whether it's counseling. And in this day and age, unprecedented times, you want to make sure that if they need counseling due to what we are all experienced during the pandemic, that they get those services. And then also making sure they get some sort of digital literacy assessment when working with clients these days. So I have a lot of handouts. One of the handouts you'll be seeing is a career plan sample, because all of this you want to make sure you can put together for your client and put it to action. So definitely go to the handouts and pull up the career plan, as well as I'm sure the presentation will be provided to you. So you can definitely find a lot of the resources within the presentation. So yeah, so thank you guys for attending. If you have any questions, definitely put them in the question and answer, and I will address them.
All right, thank you so much, Tara. Big round of applause. Thank you for sharing. And as she said, her slides are in the handouts as well as a couple of other resources for you, so make sure you go there. And when you go back, fill out the evaluation session. Amber is reminding you that. So that is in under this particular session, as they are for all the sessions. But I'm going to go ahead and stop at this point, because this room is going to be used again in 15 minutes. So enjoy your last session of the day. And Tara, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for attending, and